the fear is like a natural mechanism. So you need to learn how to live with that if you want to do different things.
But hold on, are you saying today that marketers are not living this life that we should, in that we are too fearful, that we are not being brave enough?
I'm
Fernando has built a global reputation for fusing creativity with commercial impact.
People need to understand that it's not about being fearless. It's about doing even when you are afraid. I used to do things and be like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then a year later, be like, what the hell is thinking? It's terrible.
With over 200 lions, 2 Adweek Brand Genius Awards, and campaigns that are studied around the world, Fernando really doesn't like just to talk about creativity, he does live and breathe it.
People who are capable or able to build a strong relationship with their creative partners are the ones that will do the best creative work consistently over time. I would underline consistently over time.
It really is bold, it's honest, and full of lessons from one of the world's leading people in the business. So let's get right into it. Fernando, it's an absolute pleasure having you on the Places We Go Marketing Show. It's our 200th episode, so it's a real delight to have some of your caliber come on and speak to us here today.
It's an honor and a pleasure to be part of this one. I mean, it will be an honor and a pleasure to be part of any episode, but like a 200 is like a big milestone for you guys, so I'm excited to be here.
5 years in the making, but we're not going to make it easy on you.
I never thought you would.
Well, exactly. Fernando, look, you once said that, you shit your pants every time that you want to do something unique. So I want to ask, so what's the sort of the latest idea that's really genuinely scared you and yet you've gone forth and made it happen?
God, it's a good question. The thing is, I always say that, and I will say that because I think it's important that marketing people out there listen to it. Many people think that it's about being fearless and it's about not being afraid of anything. And I always say that I'm constantly shitting my pants in most of the ideas that we do, especially the ones that I think are more daring and tend to be the ones that work the best, because people need to understand that it's not about being fearless, it's about doing even when you are afraid, right? I mean, that the fear is a natural feeling that kicks in because you are seeing something that's different, right? And if it's different, it will come with a good level of uncertainty. And if there is uncertainty, your reptilian brain will kick in and there will be fear. And the fear is like a natural mechanism, so you need to learn how to live with that if you want to do different things.
But hold on, are you saying today that marketers are not living this life that we should, in that we are too fearful, that we are not being brave enough?
I'm pretty confident that there are many marketers out there who embrace the idea of doing daring and bold things. But there is more not good work than good work out there too. So I bet that it might not be the marketing person, but organizations tend to block ideas when they come loaded with uncertainty or when people become fearful of them because they're too different than what they're used to. And they don't realize that actually one of the key challenges that we have as marketing people is to build differentiation. And I think you'll only be able to do that if you're doing different ideas, right? But going back to your question, the last one that made me shit my pants, I'm just thinking here. I think it was probably some ideas that we did for Notco, which is a startup. I work as an advisor there. Matthias Muchnik is the co-founder, CEO of the company. We did some really cool things like Mayo Haters, which won a gold in brand experience last year. We did a campaign called Not Turtle. And I think Not Turtle was probably the last one that I did that I was like, oh yeah, this is a bold bet. The Notco is about using artificial intelligence to create elevated plant-based food. And they do a lot of B2B, they help other companies with their product development. And we wanted to tell that story, which is very easy to tell in a boring way, right? I mean, and a lot of people who do B2B, they hide behind, oh, it's B2B, so it has to be boring, when it doesn't. So what we did for Notco was to show the capabilities of the company and how the AI work. We developed a plant-based version of a turtle soup, because turtles, one of the reasons that turtles are an endangered animal is that people eat them in certain countries. And we made the recipe public. So we show all the development of that product. And it's not like we had so much material that Nat Geo aired it as a documentary, a 30-minute documentary, without us paying Nat Geo to do so, because it's so cool and so different. But it was big because, and it was bold in my view, because it's a startup, and we basically Louise, who was the CMO there, leading the project. She invested like the entire budget of the year in one project. You know what I mean? But she was brave enough to do that. But we were all like holding hands and anxious and shitting our pants. At least I was a little bit. But there are like so many examples like that, you know. And I think it goes back to my point. It's like people need to understand that it's not about being fearless. It's about doing even when you are afraid. And learning how to approach things that way will lead you to do better creative work.
I love this conversation. We're talking about something quite deep, fear, bravery. There's a Susan Jeffers book. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's built for you or written for you. It's titled Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. So you've been decorated, one of the most decorated marketers on the planet, and work like Dove and Burger King. But I'm guessing you had to work your way into this. How do you deal with fear? So what was the evolution of you as a marketer into the place where you got to?
So I think I was lucky to join Unilever as a trainee. I was an intern, and then I became a trainee. And I moved from I was studying mechanical engineering, so I was working as an intern in a factory for Unilever. And then they allowed me to move from the factory to the headquarters in Brazil to be a management trainee working in marketing. And I was lucky to be there because there was a whole generation of like very ambitious marketing people when it comes to creativity. And I was lucky to have amazing bosses and coaches, and Unilever investing a lot in training. And I knew what I liked and I knew what I wanted to do. I had no idea how to do it. You know, like I don't think that creative criteria or design criteria are something that you are born with. You know, like I think it's an acquired taste. And I think that if you love that space, you're halfway there, because you will like dive head on, which is what I did, and lots of other people around me who are also like working marketing and are very successful today, but coming from that same group of people, and it was like paving the way, you know what I mean, and learning by doing. I always tell people that it took me 10 years to still like an ad I did 1 year after I did it. Because I used to do things and be like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then a year later, be like, what the hell I was thinking? It's terrible. Because I was learning so much, you know, and so fast that like the pace I was learning, everything that I did would basically like deteriorate in like 12 months. You know what I mean? And then it was like trying to do better, doing better, and being obsessed about advertising, design, learning who's doing the best work, what are the directors, photographers, production companies, creatives, and getting better, you know, like working on Vaseline, then working on Dove. And even on Dove, the best work that we did was not on the year one. So I was getting better even, so tenure also in a brand for marketing people matters, and learning by doing and being in an environment that people are creatively ambitious. We were talking when we were walking here about Keith Weed. Before Keith Weed, there was Simon Clift, who was like a big mentor for a whole generation of marketing people at Unilever. Like Unilever always had a large contingent here. If you know Keith, you would probably see him wearing his green jacket around like the Palais. So it was a company that believed that creativity could give you an edge in terms of business performance, that believe that brands should have a purpose, that believe that brands are the strongest asset that the company can have. So I grew in that culture, right? And I think that's the only way, you know, like to grow by doing, hopefully in an environment that's fertile for that to happen.
Today's program is brought to you by two fantastic organizations. First up is Studio Space, a leading on-demand marketing agency platform, Studio Space gives marketers complete control over their projects, from matching the right agency to your brief, to managing contracts and invoicing, and even tracking all of your spend data all in the one place. They take care of everything and it's totally hassle-free. They even guarantee the work. So check out Studio Space today. Our second sponsor is the Marketing Skills Trust, a charity with a mission to make marketing a better place for everyone. They provide grants to help create a more equitable industry and support initiatives that really do drive diversity, inclusion, and create opportunity. The trust has been instrumental in leveling up the marketing skills across the board. And do take a look at their website for more information. Now, let's get on with the show.
Yeah, and there's also the external context as well in terms of agency relationships, because this doesn't happen by magic. It's a result of strong and deep agencies. All too often today, CMOs, CCOs are trading that relationship, treating agencies purely as suppliers. What was your philosophy with regards agencies?
My philosophy is basically like the philosophy that I learned from Unilever, which is that they are your partner. You know, when I was at Unilever, I could not change my agency, even if I wanted. You know, it was coming top down, which is the right thing to do, because then you guarantee, right? I mean, a certain level of continuity. And I always invested a ton of time building that relationship, whether it was when I was on Vaseline working with BBH New York, when I work on Dove was with Ogilvy. But just so you get the picture, with BBH New York, and this is back in 2006, 2007, I was there in their office so often that they put my fingerprints in the system because sometimes I was arriving before some of the team and I was just waiting in the corridor, so they allowed me to just enter the building. I remember that we used to go have lunch together because I was there, and we would come back from lunch and the doorman guy from downstairs in the building in Tribeca, he's still there, by the way. I saw him the other day when I was in New York. This is 20 years ago. But he would not ask for my ID. And he would ask for the ID of everyone that works in the agency. It happens that he was an ABBA fan and remembered me because of Fernando. But still, to this day, I saw the guy the other day and he looked at me and he's saying Fernando. He's like, oh, do you remember? Because I was there all the time. You know, same with David. When we were doing the work with Burger King, you know, the guys gave me a badge for the agency because it was annoying that I was arriving there. They need to come and open the door. You know, they gave me a proper password for the Wi-Fi because they were changing the password all the time, and it was just annoying that I was always asking what was the password. So they just gave me as if I worked there, you know. I don't. There is no other way. You know what I mean? For the consumer, it doesn't matter if the idea or whatnot was the agency or was you as a client. So you better treat them as your team, and that's what I do. I think empathy is the key word in terms of that relationship. For you to understand what makes the creative guys excited and what makes them tick, for them to understand what are the pressures you have and how your stakeholders behave and what type of data you need to put on the table to be able to unlock things. Empathy goes both ways, you know, but the people who are capable or able to build a strong relationship with their creative partners are the ones that will do the best creative work consistently over time. And I would underline consistently over time, because you can hit the jackpot and hit a home run even if you don't have a good relationship. But to do consistently over time, you need to invest on that.
Fernando, I totally agree with that sentiment. And you mentioned Burger King, and I'd like to come on to that because it's the hallmark, I think, of perhaps certainly the turnaround or the way that you maneuvered the Burger King brand really took off as a consequence under your guys in leadership. Whether that be the McDonald's Detour campaign, whether that be the Whopper campaign, all of those things, phenomenal work. And I wondered if you could tell us a little bit more about the underpinnings of how you were able to get to that moment of bravery, navigating the work. How did you work with people to define that?
It was step by step. You know, when I joined Burger King in early 2014, and I called Burger King. They never called me. Like I was working for Unilever. I was global brand vice president for Dove. I saw 3G Capital acquiring Burger King a couple of years prior to that. And I saw an interview of Daniel Schwartz, who became the CEO for Burger King, and now he's the co-chairman of 3G Capital, saying that they acquired Burger King because the brand was bigger than the business. And I was always a big fan, as a good ad nerd and obsessed about advertising. I was always a huge fan of the work that Crispin did for Burger King 10 years before I joined Burger King. Whopper Freakout, Sub-7 Chicken, Whopperettes, Whopper Virgins, Whopper Sacrifice, the King himself. Like I could go on and on and on and on about that work. The King's Games, which is like a Titanium Grand Prix. Whopper Freakout is a Grand Effie. So amazing work. And then looking at what they were doing at that time, which was 10 years later, it was not that great. It was very generic, right? It could even work on the short term, but it was the brand deserved better. And Daniel said, not me, they bought because of the brand, right? I mean, the brand is bigger than the business. So I saw an opportunity there. So I called a friend of mine who was the president for Burger King in North America. I knew him from before. I told him I would love to come and help. He laughed because I was in New York for 18 years. Like, he's like, you're never going to leave. I'm like, no, I will. So I went there. When I arrived there, it was exactly what I was looking for, which doesn't mean that it was easy. Right? It was exactly what I'm looking for because I wanted a brand turnaround, because I wanted the opportunity to build a marketing team ground up, because I wanted to work in a different culture. I didn't want, I was afraid that years from now I would be in an interview for a CMO gig, and the headhunter would say, oh, you look great on the paper, but you only work for Unilever. Right? So I wanted to do something that was, everyone would look and like, oh yeah, that's different than Unilever. 3G is different than Unilever. So when I came, there was nothing. There was no processes. There was a team of like 2-3 people that didn't have a marketing background necessarily. There were no clear brand positioning. The visual identity was a bit shaky. And the business was doing not amazing. So and no one knew me, right? I mean, because it's a completely different organization. The franchisees didn't know who I was. So I focused on building my credibility, delivering short-term results, and it's almost like brick by brick. You know, I always say that to my team, guys, we're going to build a castle, but it's one brick at a time. You know, like 2-3 years in, you look and, oh yeah, it's starting to look like a castle. But like on the first week, it would look like a brick on the floor. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't look like a castle at all. And it was hard. There were days that I would go back home thinking like, what the hell did I do? Like I was in Unilever, I was loved. I was there for 18 years. I knew everyone, Paul Pullman, like name it, I knew it. Like the guy like on the cafeteria to Paul Pullman and everyone and anyone in between. And there, it was difficult. It's a very promotional driven category, fast food. It's a much faster pace than fast moving consumer goods because you know the sales immediately. Yeah. Right? Like on Unilever, I would know how much it sold to the consumer maybe like a month later. There, I had sales live on my phone on Burger King.
Wow.
And I don't know when was the tipping point, but it organically, and credit to Jose Seal and Josh, who is now the CEO, and Daniel and Alex Macedo for allowing me to play and start to push a little bit. The first campaign that we did was not Whopper the Tour. It was not Moldy Whopper. You know, like we paved our way over 7.5 years, which is the period that I was there, to bring everyone together and build a team, because it was not just me, that was able to have a very high ambition in terms of creativity, because they knew that it would pay off. One of the best compliments I ever received in my career, I think it was Jose Seal, who said, and this is like 4 or 5 years in, he said something like, you made us more comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. Because he understood that Burger King is a type of brand that has an edge, that has this challenger mentality, that's self-deprecating, that's a little bit out there. And when we are at our best, the things that we do make you a little bit uncomfortable because they are different, right? It goes back to the first question, right? I mean, you're doing something different that comes with uncertainty triggers fear. What do you do about it? You know, like, do you keep pushing do you retreat? You know what I mean? Like I kept pushing with a team around me that wanted to push. And the push was not without fear. That's the point of the first question. But it was a construction over time, you know, one brick at a time.
Well, I just love that metaphor, that building a marketing team is building a castle one brick at a time. There's also that probably reference holds true for careers as well. And that's amazing that you proactively approached them out of the blue after 18 years of tenure. A lot of people that listen to our podcast, they're in the process of building their own careers. So maybe the question here is, what's your reflections and advice on how people go about building their careers one brick at a time?
My dad used to tell me when I was a kid growing up that the most important thing in terms of where I should invest is to invest on my knowledge. Because he always said that knowledge is the only thing that you never lose, right? It doesn't matter. Life will throw you up and down, and you have cycles, but knowledge is always there. So I always try to point my career to the direction where I would learn the most. You know, in Unilever, I was always trying to put my name on the hat to do the jobs that were harder, maybe the ones that were not as sexy. I think that the only really sexy job that I did in Unilever was the Dove one, which was the last one. Before I did Vaseline, which now is sexy, but back in the day it was struggling as a brand. I did foods. I did skin cleansing, skincare in Mexico. You know what I mean? Like even the locations where I went were like, people wanted to go to Blackfriars in the headquarters. People wanted to go to New York. People want to go to Singapore. Like, no, I went to other places. And I think that because of that, and it's easy to say that because I know that in the end of the day, you have to pay bills. But if you can, to prioritize going to places where you can learn more, surrounded by people who care about you and that treat you with respect and that you feel that you belong, that would be my best advice.
It's great advice.
You know, like, and I see, even I used to say, I always said, like, hey, it's important that you have cultural fit and this and that. We all say that, but you only learn how important it is when you lose it. Yeah. And I think that I have places where I felt that I belong more than others. And it makes a massive difference. You know, like, so life is too short, like, for you to be in a place that you're not going to be at your best. You're not going to deliver your best result. Like, but it's a great brand and I'm making good money. How long that will last? You know what I mean? Like, and the career is not 100-meter dash, right? Your career is like, will last for a long time, hopefully. So you better invest on learning, surrounded by people that you enjoy spending time with, that you feel inspired, that you can learn from. Like, I was so inspired, like, as a trainee brand manager in Unilever, looking at the stuff that Simon Clift was doing, Steve Myers ended up becoming my boss. Like, I learned so much, you know, and I just wanted to do things that were going that direction. You know what I mean? Like, so those people, they lift you up, you know, like, and I think that you need to try to be on those places, and that will pay off in the medium long term for you.
Talking about careers, so 18 years Unilever, 5-10 years at Burger King?
7.5.
7.5, we got bang in the middle there. And then you decide, wait a minute, I've got to challenge myself once again and go into probably the most frontier of industries, into the gaming space. I mean, what was that all about?
Yeah, so like when I left Unilever, I made a decision that I would leave before deciding where I would go to. Right? I said, I will leave. My next step here is I will leave Unilever. By the way, I left in amazing terms. Let me tell you, like, because I'm still really good friends with everyone there. And like, just so you get the picture, like, when I left, I could only start at Burger King around April because of the visa and all. So Unilever, my boss and the boss of my boss was David Lewis, who used to report to Pullman. they came to me and said, Fernando, we want you to stay until March, April. And I'm like, guys, I can't. I had already resigned in December. Like I know that my visas only start getting ready like in March, April, but I'll probably start working for Burger King here in the UK because I have the visa. And they insisted. They said, no, we want you to stay until March. I was like, guys, I can't. And the guy, Fernando, you don't have to come to work. We want to pay your bonus. And then I said, guys, I already negotiated on my package that Burger King will pay my bonus. Like, no, so you're going to give them back. We'll pay your bonus. Because I had my best year of Unilever was that year. They give me the biggest bonus I received in my whole career after I resigned, okay, without needing to. So I gave the money back. I spoke to Burger King. They didn't have to pay me to cover my bonus. Unilever gave me, like, in a scale of 1 to 5, it was the only 5 I've got in my career, right? Just to understand how good of a company that company is, right? But when I left and I went to Burger King, the other option that I thought about was to go into a place that was digitally native, right? Why? Because I did a lot of digital transformation for Unilever, and I ended up like doing a lot of digital for Burger King. We launched mobile order and payment. We launched the app. We launched couponing on the app. We launched loyalty. That's all digital. But it was very ground up. I never saw what great looked like or that's what I felt, because those brands, they're not digitally native. So the other option when I went to Burger King was digital, but then I went to Burger King. So after 7.5 years of Burger King, when actually, like, I think that what we accomplished there was way more than even my most wild, optimistic dreams would be. So I felt that I needed to do something different to continue to have a steep learning curve. I felt I need to do digital. And I always loved gaming. Like I have like probably every single video game you can name. Like my office I have to lock, else the kids come and start to steal stuff. Like so annoying. I'm such a nerd. I have like a collection of game watches. I don't even know if you know what a game watch is. It's like that game that's very old that you open and you play like this. Not a Game Boy.
Yeah.
This is like
Donkey Kong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love the orange ones, Donkey Kong. I love that stuff. And Activision was talking to me for quite some time. It didn't work at the first time, but then they keep coming. And then I said, you know what? Let me try this, because I love the industry and because I think I will learn a lot about digital, because it's all digital, right? And it was exactly what I was hoping for in terms of digital learning. My performance marketing team was ginormous. Like Candy Crush has around 200 million monthly active players.
Big fan, by the way, Candy Crush.
But
It's my sort of guilty secret.
But it's huge. It's huge. And people don't realize how big it is. Like any version of Call of Duty or Diablo that you launch, in a couple of days will make $1 billion. Like it's a massive industry. So, and they approach things in a very different way than fast food and consumer goods. So, I was able to round it up, in terms of digital learning, which was one of the main things I was looking for.
Yeah. You can't really move for the conversation around AI right now and its interaction with creativity. I'm curious to know how your thinking is evolving around the interaction between AI and creativity as relates to advertising and brands.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm terrible at predicting the future. Every time I try to predict the future, I do a terrible job. So I tend to focus a lot on really obsessing about the things I'm pretty confident are not going to change, and I'm very curious about things. So I spend a lot of time on ChatGPT, Midjourney. I play a lot of that stuff. I'm an advisor for Notco, which, as I mentioned, they use AI to create products, like food products. But today, there is a part of AI which is more used around programmatic and segmentation, all that stuff. That's not new news there. We've been using for quite some time. The part that's more on the creative side, when I used, is more to rapid prototype something or to create a mock-up, and at least from where I stand, and remember, always with the caveat that I'm terrible predicting the future, So these statements that I'm making here will probably age really poorly. But like I only see an environment where AI is a tool, and where it will help you to do more or to do cheaper or to do faster. But like I think you still need, even on Nautical, it's never AI alone. We have an AI which is called Giuseppe, which does the formulations, but you need people to try the product and give feedback to the AI and which version is the best, or which sensory or color or this or that. Or we do a panel with consumers and feed that back. And the AI is amazing at getting to a better solution faster in a very cost-effective way, but it's never AI by itself. So on my future, I see AI as a tool that will allow us to do more or faster or cheaper. But I don't see really like a replacement. Like, by the way, like when I see it used as a replacement or without judgment or for human, I think that the output is weak. And even if people come and say like, oh, but it's proven by research that this, like, I still think it's weak. Fortunately, I spent 30 years studying this, and I feel like I should have a point of view. And I'm confident about my point of view. Doesn't mean that I'm always right, but when something's really weak, you can tell. And I see a lot of really weak things. I think you need to be careful for AI to not democratize bad advertising, because today anyone can do bad advertising very easily, right? We need to be careful with the CFO coming and saying, "Oh, my son just did this key visual using Midjourney, and it's as good as the agency one. Why are we paying an agency?" Well, who are you to define that's as good as, you don't have any criteria. I'm humble to tell you that it took me 10 years to still like an ad I like 1 year after I liked it. So it takes time, for you to develop your criteria, for you to develop a palette for these things, So be careful with the democratization of crap, which I see quite a bit happening everywhere.
Fernando, this is such an interesting conversation. And in particular, you talk about the role of criteria. And I just have to ask you, literally, you're the absolute right person here. And I want to take you back to the Moldy Whopper campaign.
Yeah.
Because it's iconic.
Yeah.
But yet fairly polarizing in how people perceive it one way and the other. And by the way, that's probably part of the magic in how it is. I would just love to get your take on how you see the criteria for success that you perhaps had back in that time and how you see it play out.
Yeah, I think that criteria for success depends on what the objective, right? I mean, of what you're doing. I see many times people talking about Moldy Whopper, and they don't even spend the time reading the results, which we made public in terms of research results and everything, and people just jump into conclusions without any data whatsoever. When Moldy Whopper is much more than just a campaign, right, to start. Moldy Whopper came about because our data was showing that, especially with the younger generations, they deeply care about eating food that was real, okay? If someone is going to eat a burger, they know that it probably has more fat and sodium and sugar than a salad, right? But it's an indulgent food, right? But I want you to eat something that's real. I don't want you to eat a burger that's artificial. And that it was even more relevant to the younger generations, way more relevant to the younger generation than to the older generations. So we knew that we had to make a move and start removing artificial ingredients from artificial sources from all the food, not just the Whopper, and from all the brands, not just Burger King. So that's how when the project started. The project started almost 4 years before Moldy Whopper came about, because I needed to do the work. Moldy Whopper was not a commitment. Moldy Whopper was like a milestone. We removed from the Whopper and we are going one by one. And let me tell you, it's really hard to do that because artificial stuff makes it taste good. You know what I mean? Artificial stuff is very, it's helpful for the cost. You increase the shelf life. Some ingredients you don't have to refrigerate. It makes operations easier. There are lots of benefits of that. Well, the one negative is that it's artificial, but no, there are lots of benefits. So it took us forever to find the way to do on the supply chain, to make sure that the taste was parity to the original, which had artificial stuff, to make sure that we had a solution for cost. Sometimes the supplier didn't have the product without artificial ingredients. Mayonnaise is very hard. You know what I mean? Like, because mayo is usually stored at a room temperature in the supermarket, right?
Yeah.
It has artificial stuff. Like, we had to refrigerate the whole thing, the whole supply chain, to have our mayo without artificial stuff, right? So it was really complicated to do. When we reached the milestone, we did do an ad that was not even terrible, but it was more of a classic commercial, explaining the ingredients and this and that. We aired that ad pre-Super Bowl. It's like in the period just before the Super Bowl, which is not cheap. It did nothing for the brand. No one spoke about it. No one cared. It didn't change any attribute. We didn't sell more. It did nothing. Why? Because in the grand scheme of things, you have bigger fishes to fry in your life than whether Burger King is removing artificial ingredients from the Whopper or not. You see what I'm saying? Is that important? It is. We will trigger sales next day? Probably not, because that was not the objective. The objective was to start making a shift in terms of perception, especially with the younger folks, that our food was real, because that it was important to them, and they would become their consumers, right? I mean, like in 5-10 years from now. So that's where that came from. When that campaign didn't work, I was like, guys, like, this is important, but we need to shake people out of their complacency, right? I mean, we cannot do another wallpaper stuff. And we had the idea of Moldy Whopper. And we saw that people on the internet, they were already talking about the fact that certain burgers get mold and others don't. There was an article from BuzzFeed talking about that had like people engaged with, like from a couple of years before Moldy. There was a crazy dude from Iceland that when Iceland had the crisis, remember, like back in the day, and they closed almost like every single international business in Iceland. This guy, he owns a hostel in Iceland. He went to the last McDonald's and bought the last cheeseburger, okay? And he put inside of a glass dome in the hostel with a camera 24/7. It's still there.
Yes,
if you Google,
yes.
you'll see what I'm talking
that.
about.
Yep.
So this thing was already like in pop culture, a little bit, not mainstream. So it's not, so we thought if we did Moldy Whopper and it were done properly, like properly meaning beautifully produced, almost like mesmerizing to watch. So it's not gross. It's like a piece of art, that thing. At least I see it that way. With the right track, music, and if we target the right people on the right channel. So I never put a poster of Moldy Whopper in the restaurant, right? I did it in digital, which is an environment that people, it was already there in the zeitgeist, this thing, you know what I mean? Like, it's polarizing. I always tell this to people. When someone says polarizing, half of the people love, half of the people don't like. I'm like, great. I will worry about that when I have 50% market share. Because like I don't. I have like 3. So like, you know what I mean? Like, so we are fine. If 50% of people love, I will take it. But what about the other? I don't care. Because like I will be 10x bigger if the 50% that love make a purchase, right? And then I have data like of like how people, what it made to the perception of great quality food, Burger King uses real ingredients, all that was shifting. We sold more. It's funny because people say like, oh, it was bad for the brand. Like based on what? Based on your opinion? Because I made all the data public to Adweek. Burger King allowed me to do so. We sold, I think, it was 14% more during the period of the campaign.
Wow.
So, so like it's one of, and I think it's funny because like every week to this day on LinkedIn, every week someone posts about Moldy Whopper. Like, and what campaign you can think of that's like 5 years old, it's probably around 5 now, that people still talk about it. You know, I don't talk about the campaign that I saw this morning. You know what I mean? Like, I think that for that objective, the objectives that we had in terms of shifting perception, the objective was not to sell more. It was to shift perceptions. It was a campaign based on future demand and long-term building of the perception of the brand. It was very successful. And one of the key ingredients that was a fuel for that was the fact that we tried to do something that was a little bit more traditional, and it didn't work at all. So that's kind of like the backstory of Moldy.
Amazing.
It is fascinating to get the backstory, the thinking, and the craft.
And 4 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
4 years
literally
in
the
the
supply
making.
chain of making that happen.
Yeah.
That's remarkable.
Incredible. All power to you. Now I want
To the team, because like the chefs kill themselves to make the product. The operation guys kill themselves to make the thing work on the lines. The agencies that work with us for Moldy, they kill themselves to make that pretty.
How did you convince the board?
Like it didn't go to the board. We at that stage, I think I could basically do whatever I wanted, but I never applied that logic. I always invest a lot of time bringing people together. So I would show to the CEO, I would show to the CFO, I would show to the presidents of the regions, I would show to the countries. I need the countries to invest behind the thing. So it was like, I think it was at a moment in our journey that it was almost expected that we would do something like that.
Right.
The castle had been built.
Yes.
And we are basically like climbing and jumping from higher and higher. That would never happen on year 1 or year 2. That's why tenure is important, and that's why you need to play a long game when it comes to these things. The best ideas are usually not the ideas that you have on year 1, year 2. Year 1, year 2, you're getting out of your system some of the more obvious things. You may not realize that. It may still look amazing, but if you stay, and if the company is really building confidence and moving to the right direction in terms of being more creative and ambitious, the best work you do will be year 4, 5, 6, 7. It will be like after you got that machine, that engine running.
Mark, you had a similar experience of that with Fixer campaign that came quite late in your tenure.
Yeah, it took 2 or 3 years to get there. So not on the same scale, UK market, but we had a lot of success with something quite bold and daring, really tapping into the deep category insight that had been hiding in plain sight for a decade.
Yeah.
But don't you get better?
Yes, for
you
sure.
know what I mean? Like even with the creative, I don't know if you were working for an agency, but even the agency gets better.
Yeah, and very much to the point about strategic relationships. We've talked, you've used the word play a number of times.
Yeah.
And we talked about Donkey Kong and gaming, and you're going to fly back to watch your beloved football team.
Yes.
So there's a kind of a fun around your mentality. So I'm curious, how do you care really passionately, but still hold things quite lightly?
I think life is too short for you to do things that are not fun. I don't know if I do it consciously, hey, let me force some fun in here. It's more like there is only one Fernando. Yeah, if you meet me outside of the work or at work, it's the same guy. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's funny. When I went back to Brazil when I was working for Burger King, a friend of mine was working for Whirlpool. He's now at Mercado Livre. He's doing really well, and he invited me to come and give a talk to his team, right? And he knew me from college, so we were college friends. And I did the talk, and we went out for have lunch. And in college, I was like a funny guy, sitting on the back of the class, drawing, making jokes. I was always like that in high school. And he looked at me when we were having lunch, and he said something like, "It's funny that you are now making money with the stuff, the fun stuff that you used to do when you were in college. They are paying you to do that stuff." And it's true. I feel very fortunate to work on something that I really love. And I think that when that happens, it's fun. And it also helps you endure the difficult times, because there will be difficult times. There will be times when you're going to lose market share, when you're going to have pressure on sales, when you're going to make your target, when there will be drama in the team, personal things, and imagine if you are not working on something that you love, when you factor the shitstorm that you will face at some point, because that's life. It's always like cycles and pendulums, right? So I try to have fun, and I care if people are having a good time, and I try to work with people that as a group or as diverse as it can be, but that's like-minded in terms of being creative, ambitious, and having fun while you're doing it.
I love the thought when you said you talk about working with as many diverse people as can be. Why would you put a particular emphasis on that?
Because I believe that when we say that we need to do things that are different, right? I mean, that the things that are most creative, they are a bit different, right? They are creative because they're different too, right? I mean, if you do it the same, they'll not be that creative. So I believe that you increase your chances of doing something creative if you have people who have different points of view and come from different backgrounds, because they will be able to see something that you said it, like it was in front of us and no one saw it, right?
Hiding in plain sight, yeah.
Right, that you say, yeah. So to me, it's like you increase your chances of uncovering something that's hiding in plain sight if you have people who see the world differently than you do. That's one of the reasons why I like so much to work with external creative partners, because I want the guys to be wild. You know, like I don't want them to necessarily fit the culture of my company. You know, like let me handle that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there are certain brands that I worked that over-index either Hispanic or African American, and I think it matters if your team has a representation. How will you cater to that? How can I do gaming if I don't play video game? You know, how can you do work for a certain sandwich brand that over-index African American if you don't have any African American chef or like a marketing person that has history about, like, you know what I mean? Like it would be the equivalent of when I was in Unilever working household cleaning, I had a big project that we were launching a brand in Brazil, okay? And I was the only Brazilian because the whole team used to sit in Argentina, so they were all Argentinians, okay? So all the ideas they would bring to the table, including the agency, they would involve samba and Pelé and this, and I was like, no, guys, you cannot do that. You know, it's like there is this footage, and I always think about that. There is this footage of Prince Charles when he was a prince, like going to Rio, and he's dancing samba because they did like a samba thing for him, and it's the most awkward thing that you ever see. Google it, please, and see Prince Charles dancing samba in Rio. It's really awkward, man. Like that will be burned. It'll be stamped on your brain. You'll never be able to forget that. And I was always afraid of being the gringo dancing samba in Rio. You know what I mean? Like, and that's exactly what you risk happening if you don't have representation. You know, like you need people who understand the culture, who understand the target, who understand the history to help you. Like if your brand, it needs to reflect a bit the brand, you know. And I think that having those different points of view, that melting pot of point of views, will also increase your chances of hitting an idea that's truly different. Instead of having a bunch of engineers coming from Brazil, which is me. You know what I mean? Like, so I want people who are different than me. I already have me for myself. Like, I want people who are bringing another angle, you know, like to the equation.
Fernando, you've grown up in the Unilever wheelhouse. And as part of that thought, purpose has been front and center, certainly till the last couple of years. And I'd love to get your take, because I think there was a moment, certainly when Alan Jobe was even talking about the fact that every single one of their core brands will have a social purpose attached to what they did. And yet there seems to be a sentiment today, in today's climate, in today's world, that seems to be revolving as the antithesis to that. And I'd love to get your push and the pull as to how you see the role of brand purpose in the context of advertising and to the consumer.
So look, I was raised in the school of brand purpose. And I believe on brand purpose. Like I would like to believe that I'm working on something that will be good business, will be good for the people who buy whatever you're offering, service or product, and it will be good for people in general and society at large. You know, maybe when I was at Burger King, I didn't necessarily articulate the purpose public, but removing artificial ingredients from the food, it's and being the only brand that was doing that, like of the large brands, it's a big deal.
Yes.
You know, that's real impact. Just watch the case study for Moldy Whopper. At the end of the case study, we show the amount of the volume of artificial ingredients that we remove from the food per year. It's ridiculous. It's like a lot. When I was at Dove, it was a fast-growing brand, still is one of the most important brands for Unilever, if not the most important, and it's clearly purposeful.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, and I think that when Alan got criticism on that, it was probably because some people didn't understand how that was driving the business. It was probably because Unilever was having a tough time in terms of growth and market share. All companies go through that, you know, like, but people not questioning P&G, and P&G still doing, you know what I mean? Like if you look at Gillette, if you look at Olay, if you look at like Thank You Mom campaign, you know, like those things are very purposeful. You know, there is plenty of data out there that shows that other things equal, if a brand supports something positive, people will prefer that brand. You need to make sure that the other things are equal or better in terms of the performance of the product, in terms of pricing. You cannot forget about those variables, right? But adding a layer which shows that the brand is doing something good for people in society can be a massive unlock. I remember the team from Dove. If you ask anyone, like, what are you doing here? They would say, like, we're here to make women feel more beautiful. You know, it was much more than we are here to sell more soap. You know what I mean? Like, I hope that in our existence, we value more something like making women feel more beautiful than let's sell more soap, you know. So I'm still a believer.
Amazing.
Fernando, it's been amazing to have you on the show. I couldn't think of a more fitting way to mark our 200th episode. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
No, thank you. Such an honor, and I really mean it.
Thank you.